So a satsang is a talk and an opportunity for Q&A as well. So if there's any Q or A in your head, feel free to bring it into the circle, into the group. And sometimes it's a co-creation of wisdom, because all of you have a lot of wisdom too. And so at times it's nice to share that. And I want to start with a little grounding. You can keep your eyes open or you close them down. And tonight it's more important to sit comfortably as possible, maybe even slouching or lying down, than finding the perfect posture that represents a yogi. So find that comfy pose. And imagine the energy from your head gently sinks down into the heart. And maybe for some of you, even further down. Anywhere that feels sweet or calm or just energizing enough. And you can repeat that gentle internal movement, energy of head, floating down, relax the jaw. And you don't even need to succeed, you just give direction, energy going downwards. And the space downwards, wherever that is, heart, belly, is allowed to soften and relax. That is a space where nothing is really expected. Nothing is in lack of. There's just this warm, gentle feeling of being here, of having this body. And you can stay like that. And you can join in for a mantra. We start with a mantra. The lyrics are very simple. Om Namah Shivaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Just see if you join in by yourself. Athena's maybe so kind to play it for us. And if mantra is not your thing, that's all right, and just listen. Keep doing that movement that is floating downwards towards the rest of the body except the head, just downwards. You can also sing from there. You can sing with the center of the body. Sing with your body. Let flow whatever is there, even if that's giggling, that's the right, let it flow. All right. From that center of the body, pick one of your senses, maybe feeling or maybe hearing. Those are easy access, but you can pick any. Pick one of your senses and go into it. Walk closer into the sense perception. Feel deeper what's here right now. And recognize that this is not happening anywhere outside, somewhere else. It's happening inside, in your awareness. right here inside. So just feel what is present. And you can stay connected to that sense throughout the whole session. Or not, that's all right too. But maybe remind yourself now and then to come back to that sensation. And relax the body even more if you're not yet super relaxed. Maybe open the eyes if you want. And come back to that sense, even with open eyes. Even if the mind starts to take over again, stay connected to that sense, whatever that is. And you don't need to force it, it's more relaxing, a deeper relaxation that brings you automatically more in touch with sensing. So, that is not a random practice. That is a key element of Tantric yoga. And that's what we mainly have as our foundation here at INEA Yoga. And Tantra teaches to come into so-called embodiment, meaning to come into your senses, to come back to your senses. We have that as a saying sometimes. You're out of your senses, no, you're out of your mind. Come back to your senses. I'm not sure if you use that together, but that's a good thing. Being out of your mind and coming back to your senses is a very good thing. That is a reconnection with our vehicle of experience, which is this body. And that's very much a yogic practice. Nowadays, often sold as mindfulness. You can make good money with it. And it's a spiritual practice. Because the Tantrics and many other yogis saw this life, including the body, as something very, very beautiful. Or in other words, as something sacred. So nothing we have to get rid of or overcome or purify or improve. It's already like beautifully designed and there to be embraced. And you have the free choice to love it, actually. And that differentiates sometimes, in some schools, Tantra or the Tantric direction from other yoga schools, which are a bit more so-called ascetic, asketisch in German. Ascetic means you go out of your senses, out of your mind, and you withdraw to emptiness, to pureness. You, in a sense, not necessarily reject the body, but you don't use the body as a tool to get to a deep place of peace. Sometimes that's called Ashtanga, in a sense of the Eightfold Path, taught from a guy called Patanjali, one of the most popular yoga scriptures, which have a lot of wisdom, but they basically teach this path steps, which is great and cool, and everybody should do it at times. Those 8 steps where you go out of the senses, where you withdraw, they even call it like that, into that stillness we now would call meditation. And that is one approach, and that's a great approach because you learn that there is stillness inside. And that stillness is very peaceful, yet it has its limits. As soon as you're back in the body, that stillness is gone, in a sense. Maybe not if you deeply practice that but for most people, most of the times, especially in modern overstimulating worlds like ours. And that's why I think the Tantric approach is quite handy, as it trains you and your body and your system to find that peace also within the body and in the world, using your senses and being in the senses. And the Tantrics describe, and I very much feel the same, that you can find the same peace and stillness even there too. And it's a beautiful approach because you can use that in daily life. You can live a life and still work and practice being in harmony with what I sometimes call the flow of life. That just means reality, how it's happening. And that is the big issue which we have most of the times, because we are with the whole energy. We are here inside the head, and that mental energy makes us conceptualize everything we experience. So I do a task and I conceptualize all parts of that task in my head, as well as how I relate to other people and how they probably relate to me, and not even relate, like also judge, how they judge me. And all kinds of deadlines, timings, everything is conceptualized, and the level of concept is virtual, is not grounded in that what is actually happening in reality. What is happening is that what we experience with our body, and then it's translated as a concept in our mind. A concept means like we make a story about it, we name it, we give it labels, we judge it as good or bad, like or dislike, and that's where the problem is created, because the mind gets a different idea about how reality should look like than how it actually looks like. So it's a useful tool because we can create and make plans for the future. We can evaluate mistakes, so we can structure our learning. But at the same time, it creates this different world, kind of secondary reality that happens all the time, and places it on top of what actually is happening. And often those don't match, because you, the little radio commentator, that's how I call them sometimes, like this person that always talks in your head, monkey mind, has other ideas about how life should happen. So you have a random situation, and this person says, it shouldn't be like this. And then you agree, yes, it shouldn't be like this, because you have this concept about how it should be. And then you have a problem. And then you create suffering because you beat yourself up. Why did I not make it different? Or you beat others up. Why is this bloody asshole acting like that? Why isn't he loving me? Why isn't she treating me like this? I didn't deserve that, or you didn't deserve that, or any other story you can come up with. And it's really a game you can only lose because reality just happens as it happens. And as soon as you start to argue with reality, you already lost the game, because you want to change what is, and you can't. What happened, happened. What happens in this very moment is what is. And if your mind says it shouldn't be, it's a lost game. You can play that so long, and you can suffer so much from it. And to keep that game up takes a lot of energy. And where does the energy go? It's produced here, and it's taken here. So you have less here, and you have too much here. And then you get so-called stress, and then you get issues where you have too little energy, and then at some point it goes into the body and you get also sick or, burnout or something like that. That's why also I believe Tantra is a beautiful practice, because we bring the energy back and use it where it's needed in the senses and in the body. For example, to extract energy from food and so on. Does that make sense, what I just said? Great. My teacher sometimes says, following what the mind says is insanity. We have to come back to sanity and connect with actual life happening. Because that what you build in the head is a parallel world that just exists in the head as thought, as a concept. Like, this person doesn't like me. It's a concept in their head and it's a concept in your head, and often those don't even match. But you make a whole lot of stories and you change literally your experience and your life according to that concept. And it's made up. Some things have a little bit more, connection to reality, and some very much less. So in most cases, it's actually healthier to disbelieve a little bit the mind world and believe more into what's actually happening. Not believe, because you don't need to believe that. It's here, it's right here, and it's visceral. You can just embrace it. You can just feel it. That's the whole spiritual thing and practice. You don't need to do anything except feeling what's happening. You nailed it, then you're good. As soon as you make the thought about it, like, but I shouldn't feel that, it shouldn't be this, it should be no. Then you create the problems. So it's very simple. Spiritual practice is very simple. You just go with what is there. And you embrace it. And that is a tantric path. And it's easier said than done. It's a little bit like the story, which I very much like, about the fish in the water that swims with its friend, and then they pass another fish and they say, like, the water over there is really nice, you have to check it out. And they both swim there, and then the one fish asks the other, like, what is actually water? Because, you're surrounded by water as a fish. You're born into water, you're breathing water, you're eating water, you're like, inside is water, outside is water. It's like, how do you know what water is? It's a little bit similar with that spiritual thing. It's just so clear and obvious and present, because that's what it is here. We're living it. But because we are so caught up in the mind, we oversee it and we are born into it. So it's the most easy thing, but we have to remind ourselves that it's here and that it's this. That's why we have all those practices to become more present. Do you know this talk in yoga classes? Just connect with the present moment, come to the presence. Like, meditation is all about being in the present. What does that mean, being in the present? If you make it a concept, it's really difficult, and you're just meant to fail. Because as soon as you think about presence, you're in the realm of concepts. And presence can stay as a concept, but it's never experienceable as a concept. So you have to come down to experience, and then you're here. The body, if you have a sense, touch something or remember your sense. It's here. That's it. Simple. The most simple thing in the world, actually. And that is you. You're the experience of your 5 senses. That very experience is how you are at this moment of time. There's nothing complicated, complex. There's nothing mysterious. I mean, it's just mysterious why it's here, but there's nothing like weird about it. It's just very full and beautiful. And then you don't need to know actually anything, because you know already this. It's happening, it's here. It's a felt experience of this. Full. Here. Nothing needs to change.
Except the lighting.
Athena's like, this reality shouldn't be like this. The light should be more red. All right. There was something in my mind I wanted to do with you guys.
The light's taken over.
No.
Experience change.
So the main practice of Tantra Yoga, you could say, is to offer. Yeah, it's, sometimes this language is not suitable for everybody, like to make a sacred offer. And if that's not your thing, then just translate it as feel. To feel, what is my experience right now? That is the practice. And you don't need more, but you could add, that makes it a little bit more fun or joyful, or you could add, and how can I fall in love with it? And at the beginning of our journey, we start with beautiful experiences, and then we go to neutral experiences, and then we go to the difficult ones. And then we take any experience. Anything that comes, we just do the same. What is my experience? Feel it. And then embrace it. Yeah. And if we would just follow that, I think it would be very healing for most people. But I have to make a disclaimer. It's their teachings, those teachings, they're often given in portions or at the right time. And because you're here, I imagine it's the right time. But it's not for everybody in any circumstances the right timing. Because some people need few steps first, or other steps. And that is, if you have a very destructive self-image, I recommend to work first on the self-destructive self-image, turning it into a positive self-image, to some extent at least. Because you need the capacity to do the practice. And with this very destructive self-image, you don't have that capacity. Or when you're stressed or burnt out or something, you need rest first. And then working on so-called the self-image. So that is done in the head. That is done reshaping your language internally. That is done creating new patterns and habits, positive self conversations, and also like psychology and therapy and all that stuff. Like that's working with the mental self-talk to bring that into a more positive, empowering place. And those teachings start there. Often when you're in a place where it's very self-destructive, it sometimes doesn't work because you don't have capacity, or you're not at a place where you can actually access that. And maybe for some people it does work, I don't know. Even if they are in very bad places. And Julia asked a question, or mentioned something. Not really a question, she mentioned something at the table. And I just want to go into that just for a little bit. So when there is a big issue somewhere in your body, like energetic body, or like in your mind or trauma or something, and you work on that, there's also big potential of energy to be released. And if that happens, you have that energy available. And it can be also quite a strong journey. So if someone is at a very bad place, they can still sometimes unlock this bad place with a spiritual teaching and then gain lots of energy. And with that rush of energy, you can almost fast track you into different experiences, or like a better understanding of what you are. Nevertheless, it also sometimes is overwhelming for the nervous system. So that's why it's great to have practices on the side that calm the nervous system or teachers that help on the journey. Yeah. I just say that, so I want to... One second. Yes. So I just don't lose my thought. For someone not to come into that trap to think, oh, I need to be at a certain stage to start the practice. You actually don't. So you don't have to have a specific skill or be good enough in yoga or have resolved your childhood trauma or something to start spiritual practice or to start like healing. No, you start where you are, and that's good enough. That's like the perfect point, actually. There's no better point. Yes.
There is a goddess in the yoga world called Durga, the invincible one. And Durga often is pictured riding a tiger. And they say that if you have all this extra energy somehow, that could be even from pain or from something released suddenly, that it feels a little bit like riding a tiger. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have practice or you don't commit to practice very quickly, then riding that tiger is very hard. But if you have a good steady practice, then you can kind of transform into Durga and manage this extra force in a way that is useful and in a way that is okay for your life, and you're not completely overwhelmed and lost and the rest. If that means anything to anyone.
Yes. I would love to open the conversation or the circle to questions or shares, even if you have some, or how you relate to that teaching. I just kind of pointed out. If there's anything you guys connect to, relate to, want to share or ask about, do it now.
You talked about how denying reality through conceptualizing things can bring a lot of suffering. When you accept reality, I think sometimes humans still find this desire to ask why. Why is it the way it is? Okay, I can accept that this is the state of affairs, but why? Why did this person do this? Or why wouldn't they love me, to use your example? Is that another way of denying reality, or do you think that Tantra can help with that as well?
Beautiful question. Thank you for asking. I want to say, after this answer, I want to say something about accepting reality. Remind me if I forget. So the why question is a question that can only happen in a realm of concept, because this world and this life and this reality has no why per se. It actually doesn't have a why, except the experience of it is the answer to the why. Maybe that didn't make sense, but so why do we experience it? Because we experience it. That's it. There's no further thing why it's happening. It's happening because we experience it. If you want to answer that question, you have to go to the mind and create a story. And then you're in the mind world, in the realm, human mind realm, by the way, which operates on stories, meaning this person did that because of that, because of that, because of that, or I judged them because I had this in my past and I grew up. Like there's a logical, your story, why you are you, like your character, is because you grew up in those circumstances you grew up. So it's a chronological event that led you to acting like you do. But there's no why behind, in a sense of it's happening for a bigger reason. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So there is no bigger reason, according to the yogis, except that life wants to experience itself. That's why it's happening. And that's the beauty in it. We, as creators, we just enjoy having this creation being experienced by us. That's the answer to the why. There's no deeper why.
Or if there is, you're not going to know what it is, especially if it relates to somebody else.
Say again?
Like if there is a why, which you're saying is not, but if there is, like going over it in your head, you're not going to find the answer anyway. Right?
Yeah, mostly exactly that's the case too. Yeah, and really, like any answer to a why question is a mental answer. It's a concept you place upon reality. Reality has no names, has no labels, has no concepts. It's just happening. And we describe it as, oh, this is a sunset. Is the sunset still there if you don't call it sunset? Yes. It's like, it's a second reality we place on top of it. We humans. I imagine cats, for example, that don't do that. They don't ask, why did this happen now? I'm frustrated. Yeah, it's still maybe, yeah, well, it's a guess. Yeah.
She's asking
Why have they locked me out?
I mean, that's why she wants to
Maybe,
Why am I not in there?
maybe the like emotional energy, because I believe that animals are living with emotions, but not with human mind. Maybe the emotional quality of a why can be still slightly there, but it's not a conceptual why, and we get lost in the conceptual whys, like totally. And then secondly, to go to acceptance. Accepting reality as it is doesn't mean to not act. If you're not happy, like I use often the example of the hand in the fire. If your hand is in the fire, like acceptance doesn't mean you keep the hand burning. It means you just follow the natural impulse, what's happening, what life does. That's taking out the hand of the fire. It's a natural realignment. And so if you are in a place which you don't enjoy, in a sense, or abusive relationship or whatever, act on it, yes, of course. But follow that deep impulse that life wants to do. And not conceptualize and say, oh, actually, if I leave now, it's not the best moment because then I will upset this person and the other person. And, you're making stories in your head again, and then it becomes difficult to deal with reality. You follow the deepest impulse and you can still use your mind as a tool to navigate more compassionately or kindly or sweetly through this reality. Like, it's not forbidden to use the mind. It's just a matter of not falling into the trap, believing the mind as true. The thoughts as true. Thank you. Any other shares or questions?
So you mentioned embracing kind of the negative and disappointing sort of experiences. But in situations where, say, you experience trauma as a young person, and your mind is no longer thinking about, your body, of course, still remembers some of those things. How do you advise in embracing your body reacting to something that is profoundly negative?
Yeah, that is a deep question, which the biggest part of that answer is practice of rewiring. And what I mean with that is your body learned for probably years to act or react in a very specific way. And you can work on those traumas through understanding them maybe and do stuff like that. But the body still remembers that muscle memory and that like connections. And that only is repetitive rewiring into new habits. So that's not done from one day to the other day, except very rarely. I have heard of some stories, but and that is work. But it also is lasting work, because once you have rewired, you normally get constant results that are supportive. Does it make sense? Yeah. But still, you cannot control when your trauma comes back to your present moment, into your mind and body space. And I do believe the most beneficial thing to do is still feel it fully, meaning embracing it, feeling it fully, and then while you feel it fully, rewiring your story about it. And there's no guidance how often it will happen, or that as if you do it good enough that it will be over at some point. For some people maybe it is, for some people it's going on for a lot of times, and for some people it's so deep that they will maybe live for it forever. But the more you learn that it's all right to have any state of sensations in your body, the more you get okay with it. And you learn also mentally quicker to come back into a state where you feel relaxed, basically. Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that as well?
Yes.
I think a really important piece in that as well, when we're working with, whether it's capital T trauma or lower T trauma, that everyone has something in them, is titration is so important. That like not necessarily going full blast into things with different practices, and to like really titrate your experience. And when we do start to attune to our bodies a lot more, there is like, I think some of us, when we did the workshop yesterday, were like, feeling that a little bit of like how much the body really knows. And so when we do attune to it, like your body will tell you when like, okay, I'm nearing that edge and like capacity, like you were speaking about. And so I think that, yeah, it's like super important to titrate our experiences with it and almost just like drip feed going towards it rather than allowing us to like unravel everything all at once.
Yeah, especially if you want to stay functional.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the word?
Titration.
Can you give me another word for it?
Like drip feeding.
Okay.
So if you think about
pacing it.
Yeah, like pacing. It's
Yeah.
kind of like your
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
yeah.
I get it, yeah.
I think, yeah, like if you think, I think normally when I first heard the term before getting into like more somatic therapy and that kind of world was in science. It was like you would like titrate, you'd use like a little drip thing to like titrate, this chemical into this chemical. But yeah, so it's the same idea of like little by little, I guess.
Yeah. And practice is so beneficial in that sense because you normally do it in a safe environment. And yeah, exactly. And it's also very helpful to have, like for me it was helpful to have a lineage and a teacher, because it's kind of a tested, even over centuries tested system. And sometimes that helps because you know what's happening. So also in some, when you work with trauma, what happens is that you release that lots of energy, and that can spark the so-called Kundalini. So you get you get huge energies, and that's part of high intensity energies. And if you don't know what's going on at all, you can get easily lost. And sometimes it's just good to have that darshan, that kind of worldview back up. You're not insane in a sense. To trust or to know, okay, that's normal, or it can be happening, and what I do is X, Y, Z, or I have this practices to relax the body, for example, like yin yoga, relaxing the nervous system, or stuff like that, that helps to kind of guide that intense energy to the right place, in a sense, and not just letting it go wild. Another share question.
Have you already told us this accept reality?
Mhm.
Have
Yeah.
you told us? Okay.
I mean,
So,
accepting.
Chris said it that you're going to go deeper into that.
No, not today. But accepting basically is just like follow your intuition. Yeah, if the hand is in the fire, take it out. That's like, you don't have to accept everything how it is. That's another story. You know, I have to accept burning my hand because I have to accept. I have to accept. No, accepting the flow of life. Oh, hot. I have to move away from that. Oh, that's intuition. My body wants to move this way. But it needs some discernment, you know, at times.
One of the biggest problems is that or I think most of the people that struggle with this topics don't know what burns them.
Yeah.
Or what is, because
Yeah.
they have a long history of invalidation. So
Yeah.
the psychological term for that would be invalidation. So
I see.
they don't know because they never got the personal relationship that taught them this is right and this is good and whatever. So, and then I think this is really, could be problematic then if you don't know what is good or not good or whatever for you.
Yeah, and often that happens all in the head, right? It's not really, is it connected to the body then also?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it mainly happening in the head?
No, it's both.
Both, okay. Because it's that trained reaction from the body, like,
yes,
that's what I do because that's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess that's where also support from the outside becomes handy, or good teachings become handy, because you identify patterns, or you learn a different energetic movement or like body movement from another person that shows you.
That is like therapeutic, professional.
Yes.
So that you have somebody who's give you this safe environment where you learn what is good or not good for you. Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good example to say, like, if you're in a state where your mind and your body are completely primed to keep the hand on the fire, you're not ready for the teaching of acceptance.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the best teaching. It's not the right teaching for the right person.
Or whatever means then also embrace
exactly. Yes, embracing the suffering. Well, yeah, probably not. Yeah.
But I just want to add that there are people who are in this.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I mentioned that, like, negative self-image, positive, and then we can move onwards on the journey. No self-image would be later on. Was there another question?
How do you stop yourself conceptualizing your sensory experience? Because I noticed before when you asked us to pick one, I'm telling myself a story about what I'm seeing, and suddenly you go from the sensation to your mind. Yeah.
A good start is so some concepts help us on the path. That's why we have language and satsangs. Otherwise, we could just sit in silence and you guys try to figure out. So some concepts are better pointers to get to no concept. Here's one of them.
So like asking yourself a question about what you're feeling.
Yeah, there would be another one. Yeah, yes. Self-inquiry, like how does it feel to be me right now? Or how do I feel? And we don't mean like I'm sad, not like this evaluation. What do I feel is maybe a better question.
And I think the most valid answer is the answer that we have in the body before the language kicks in.
Yeah.
So before it starts to become a sentence, that's the actual answer. And when we start to form the sentence, no, this is not so good, maybe this word is better, then it's too late.
It's really interesting because,
Go.
I've felt that a few times in meditation, or afterwards, where you're thinking of something or supposed to find an answer, or the teacher asks something. I'm like, do I pick this or do I pick that? You know? And then like running the words in my mind, and then something comes, and it's almost like, I almost see it like flying the words in front of me. I'm like, whoo, and can feel it in my body. That's really, that for me was a really powerful, felt experience of, trying to grasp on something, on concepts, on like almost even in this short matter of time, trying to reflect on past experiences, and based on that, blah, blah, blah. And then the answer is just like nothing super profound, but still it's just so obvious that it's not coming from a place, like from a thought or from the mind. It's just there. Although it's a word maybe, because we do use words to describe what it's
well, to communicate normally and with others mainly, but we do use it to communicate with ourselves, like that imaginary self inside we created over the years, that person, that Baha. And you don't have to label it to have the experience. Yeah. And the label comes, and that's now towards your question, the label comes by itself. And that is the problem. It's not really a problem, it's just you give it energy by believing it, by thinking, yeah, that's true, I feel tired. That's a label which we kind of summarize the whole experience of our five senses. I'm tired. It's like interpreting your energy. And what can you do if the word is there? Nothing anymore, it's already there. So in a tantric practice, you would neither fight with it nor jump on it, or like not pushing it away nor taking it in. You try to become kind of neutral. So what I sometimes use as an example is, imagine your thoughts are radio that is in the back of the room. It's just playing its show, and you're not in control of what it's saying or not. And it's there, so it's in your awareness, but you don't give it more attention than it's already there, and you also don't try to blend it out. You just actually relax in your senses. You pick a sense and you relax, or all of them. You relax in your senses. And that thing goes on and goes on until it's not going on anymore. And if you have a busy life, most of the time it's just going on forever. So I was on this 10 days meditation intensive where you don't do anything except meditation whole day long. And after day 3 or 4, like I didn't have so many thoughts anymore. It really calmed down, and I had like 30 minutes, 40 minutes without a thought at times, And that just happened because there was no input, and I didn't need to process many things anymore. And if we have like complex social interactions, all we do when we have a bit of silence is to process that stuff. And that's the first thing that is being processed. And if that's done, you know what's happening. You sit into meditation, so the daily stuff is coming, your problems are coming. If you like let them go and come and go and come, then the deep stuff comes, because you know that's more exciting. So the brain wants like, I will get you. And then it brings the solution to your big problems. And you're, wow, that's a great solution. I have to write it down, otherwise I will forget. So it's almost doing everything to be seen, in a sense, and to still keep it running. And yeah, it's not fighting, it's rather a relaxation, but also not ignoring it. And it's part of this it's part of the acceptance game. Like, oh, it's there, how interesting, just another thought. Yeah. Another thing you can do is to feel into the energy of the thought. So there's the thought coming, and there's the label and the language part, but you can feel into the energy of it, kind of the more subtle texture of the thought. And there are many other tools what you can do to avoid thoughts or to crystallize your mind towards other things like mantras, repeating mantras and stuff like that. Okay, last one for tonight. We have an hour already. If there's any share or question.
I would maybe add just learning to notice. Learning, it happened again. I didn't even realize it happening, but it happened again. And then with time, maybe you start to notice it happening, but you still don't need to change it. And then even after more practicing, just noticing, like, oh yeah, I think it's going to happen.
How interesting.
But then you still do it. And then maybe after some more time, you get a different relation to the act of conceptualizing. So giving yourself time and just you start to notice, like you began with the practice, pick a sense and then notice it maybe throughout this session. Then to ground in the sense.
I wanted to add something too now that you said. I remembered I once done a practice where can't remember like the exact details, but when we practicing it in like really small ways, as in, for example, we hear sounds, and when I hear a sound, I don't just hear the sound, I'm like, oh, that's a car, or oh, that's Dionysus walking, like, you know, and I found really interesting as a very, it's eye-opening, and I could imagine, like, I haven't done it for a very long time, but repeated it several times to just be like really with the sound and what it is that comes in. And I would have not thought that it's so difficult to strip away the concept of what it is.
Totally. It's a brilliant practice, and it's magical. If you once in your life taste chocolate without the concept of having chocolate or taste, there's just an explosion of magic in your mouth. Seriously, I don't even know why this can even be existing. It's super crazy. It's literally, and you can extend that to any sense. It's like how?
It's just like it's not the birds. You just eat.
Yeah, smell a flower, eat some chocolate or whatever. Take the smell in from the bio system.
To experience our sensations, our senses through the brain. Because science is more and more showing how, for example, when we see something, we actually don't see what we understand that we see when the mind is really engaged. And when you're looking just like, as I'm talking to you towards me, if you were to look at me with completely blurred vision, like not really focusing at me, that would be so much more real as what our vision actually does. And the less we relax into that looking, which just looks blurry, and we start to sharpen it, that's more the brain making sense of it rather than us seeing clearly. And we are so trained to imagine that we see clearly when we can see all the details, when in fact we can't really see all the details. The details are made by the mind. But we, somehow even language makes us think, oh no, this is clear seeing. So if I want to see you, I have to really see every detail. And it's the same with hearing, when in fact if we do manage at points to relax into the blurry vision, or to listen to something in a blurry way, or like taste and just taste and not be like, what is this? Is that aniseed? Or is that? Actually, we're in the senses so much more deeply. So
I heard a podcast, when you extend your arm and you look at your thumb, the surface of your thumb, that's what you actually see, and the rest is the brain constructing. So you scan the room, and then the brain is kind of constructing the rest and imagining like how would it look like approximately, and then constructing the picture, and that what you actually see is the thumb space. Like what actually goes into the eye and processed in detail, in a sense. Fun fact, anyway.
Yeah, there's also the bias. Starts.
Oh, totally, yeah. Yeah.
the
bias. So
Yeah.
of course we add the details, but we could also see things different.
Yeah. All right. Nothing urgent anymore, right? Sleep. Okay, let's close with some... Oh, yes. Actually, I wanted to do that with you guys. Maybe it's not the right time now. No, we do it another time. Let's close with... Huh?
There's a history.
Yeah,
The thing you meant. Oh no.
we do it maybe another night. Maybe the last night. No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I need to mismarkle with it.
Oh, she's so good. Come on, baby, that's so sweet of you. She's like, for the mantra, we do
Just 3 arms.
Nice.
Oh, you made friends. All right, let's chant 3 arms or listen to. Take a big sigh. Another breath, another sigh, maybe a gentle sound. And let's chant an Om together. Inhale through the nose. are on your feet, stay connected to one sense. So whatever happens, until you're on your feet, see if you can still have kind of a second attention on this sense. That might slow down things. Namaste, good night.
Namaste.